more accessible cultural heritage sites, because honestly, this is what's going to then drive interest. I believe, at least, this is what's going to drive interest in these spaces. And it's not going to. It doesn't replace travel, right? If anything, you have people out now traveling to these spaces who know something about them and really want to be there. They're not like in these kind of like tour groups that are just kind of like looking passively at the spaces. I have had students now, I've been doing VR kind of teaching for a couple of years now. And my favorite thing is I get letters from students in the summer that finally go and visit some of these spaces. And they're like, wow, it's so similar to what we experience, or it's so different, and how it's different, and how it kind of cued them into looking better when they finally visited them.
Awesome that you're able to do that.
Yeah. And it's great to, it's a great opportunity for my students to be able to kind of join and do this work too. Okay, we have one more room. If we want to kind of go through the portal that's over here at the door, we can look at another space. That I kind of have two more rooms, but we'll keep it short. But I'll meet you on the other side.
Everybody go through. I know y'all know how to do it. Oh, shoot.
I'll give you a second just to kind of look around and take this all in, because it's a really pretty spectacular space. This is a room that from the very origin of this project, this is a room that I wanted to do. And I finally got access, I think we did this 3 years ago. And it was a total joy to be able to do that. Partly because I think this is like one of the clearest expressions in the Renaissance of an effort to create a virtual world, right? We are in a room where you cannot decipher where the walls really are, where they begin and where they stop. There are no corners to this room. The corners are intentionally blurred, not only in the actual physical architecture, but also in the painting. And when you're standing here, you kind of feel like you are in the center of this calamitous event that's unfolding, which is when the giants are trying to overthrow Mount Olympus. And Mount Olympus is up there on the ceiling. And we see the giants, these really amazing, heroic kind of bodies, colossal bodies, who are being destroyed under the weight of the mountains and rocks that are kind of tumbling down on them. I love this room. This is a room that's in Mantua, Italy, so in kind of northern Italy. And this was for a wealthy family, the Gonzaga family, for their private kind of pleasure villa. They actually have a home in Mantua, and this is about 1.5 miles north of that home. And so you can imagine they have a really amazing palace, but then they just wanted like another palace just so they could kind of enjoy life. And that enjoyment is really emulated then in the paintings themselves, right? It allows for more artistic license from the artist. The painter is a man by the name of Giulio Romano. He was the most gifted, celebrated pupil of Raphael, and he just goes all out trying to paint this. And I'm showing you on the slides here the room as you would see it in a rather conventional art history class. But I want to kind of have a little mini lesson here too, to kind of think about this space and how we can maybe use VR to enhance this space. I'm showing you here a few passages. These passages are from a very early description of the room. This is recounted in the writer Giorgio Vasari's Life of Giulio Romano. This is a biography that he writes about Giulio Romano. And we think that Giorgio Vasari certainly went and visited this space, and he writes in detail about that experience. And, how many fantasies there are. He also then writes a little bit about the idea that this room is kind of deceiving you. Further on, he begins just describe just how marvelous of a space this was, how, your fear, there's the actual fear that you have that the mountains are going to crumble on top of you, right? So there's a really vivid description from the Renaissance about, people's reactions to the space. But in that same description, he also begins describing features that are no longer here. For instance, a fireplace of rustic stones that were roughly hewn. And he tells us that the fireplace in the room, when it was kind of the only source of real light, that when it was burning, it made the appearances of the giants themselves were burning. And we know that this fireplace actually existed because when we look at archival material, like early prints made in the 17th century, or in drawings of the room, you can see that there was originally a fireplace in between those two doors that you're seeing on the opposite wall of the PowerPoint. And if you look closely, unfortunately, the resolution of the actual space is a little is not great. If you're on a PC, you can probably see a little bit better. But if you go to where I'm standing and you look really closely at the wall, you will eventually see that there is a break in the actual plaster. And that physical break corresponds to where the fireplace originally was. Furthermore, Vasari tells us that the floor was different. This is a later addition, this floor. But the floor was originally made of small round stones set on edge, and that the painting on the walls corresponded to the actual physical stones. So you wouldn't be able to tell where the floor stopped and the painted wall began. And there's some kind of evidence of that if you look closely at the corners of the room, see kind of where there's been repainting that's happened. So I began thinking about how we can digitally transform this space, right? This is the room, this is the model that you're standing in right now, right? It's very meta that you're looking at a picture of the room that you're in, that we've created. And I began thinking a little bit about how we can restore this space, right? Digitally restore it. So this is the outline in that break in the plaster of where the original fireplace was that I showed you a little earlier. And this is now a fireplace that's been added. Furthermore, we can illuminate that fireplace and actually have it burning, and being the source of light in the space. Also, the room itself had a different floor. We can take that floor out. We can put a new floor in, and we can put a new texture. And just for the fun of it, this is probably what the floor originally looked like, but unfortunately, at least this is what I think the floor originally looked like. But unfortunately, the painting, we've lost the painted part that would correspond to this floor. So allow me some artistic license to put a different floor in to give this effect even greater weight, which is a floor with rocks that look very similar to the rocks that are painted on the wall. So we have a room that goes from this to a room that looks like this. And better yet, we can actually go and visit this room. So if you want to go, follow me to this corner here, go through the portal, and we'll go back to this restored space. Listen, my 3D modeling skills are really limited, okay? I'm learning Blender slowly. But I would love to beef up that animation of the fire. I've done it in other platforms where it's roaring fire. And I was really trying desperately to put a sound of a fire, right? Just because you would get then the experience of what it would sound like, the crackling of the fire, and sometimes that fire kind of just bursts, and you kind of flinch, and at that same time that you flinch from the crackling of the fire, you're kind of flinching because the room itself is caving in. You can imagine how the drama of the light, right, would change, kind of create this really eerie experience here. And in fact, if you look at the wall where the fireplace is, you can see that there's actually little flames that are coming out from between the rocks, right, up higher. And that's because this giant that's being buried in stone is the giant who, according to mythology, is located under Mount Etna, right? So the fire is then the source of the fire of the volcano that comes up as a result. And what's even cooler is that opposite of the fireplace, way up in the ceiling, and I wish I had my pointer, my laser pointer, but there is this god who is dressed in green. He's a little corpulent. He has a beard, but he has over his shoulder, he holds a hammer. And that god is Vulcan. Vulcan, who's the god of the forge. And he looks down at his fireplace, right? So he is the god of the hearth. So he is there to kind of watch over the fire. There's some accounts that maybe even in this space there would have been kind of sound effects. In fact, we know that because of the architecture, these walls are all whispering walls. So if you were to go into the corner, you could hear someone that's on the opposite side if they just whispered to you. But there's even some, perhaps, I could imagine, I really want to find evidence of this. I don't have evidence of it, but maybe that thunder sheets would have been used. So there would have been kind of like the clasp of thunder and lightning that would have kind of enhanced that kind of experience as well. Any questions? Oh, thanks. Yeah. I really, this is one of my favorite little pet projects that I've been doing over the last couple of years. Trying to think about, not just now recreating spaces, as many of you are pointing out, but also what does this offer? What does this technology offer that's not possible in the real world?
That is really the very best question to ask when you're developing in XR. Like, what is the reason to do this digitally?
Right.
And that's an awesome use case. I love it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You far exceeded any expectations I ever had. This is fantastic, Professor Hupe.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I can't speak. I'm speechless.
That's the whole point, it's kind of cool, it's neat when art takes your breath away, right? And that was clearly the whole intention of a room like this. That is exactly what the artist and what the patron who paid for this is after. They want you to be dumbfounded when you walk into it. And when you read Giorgio Vasari's description, he clearly was, right? He was he was trying to find words to describe a space like this, right? And I think that, what's really great is that we now have a technology that allows us to have a similar reaction. I think if I were to show a 2D image of, even the images I was showing you in the other room of, the screenshots of this space, it was cool, right? But I think it's even cooler when you get to see it, right? It kind of really begins to click and make sense. And you begin to have a reaction to the space that is closer or more akin to the reaction that the artist and the patron wanted you to have. And I think that that's really interesting, that we now are entering into a world where that is possible.
I think too, this sort of technology is making travel like to these places a little bit more accessible. Like the technology, like, the headsets are still kind of unaffordable for many population, but the fact that you could still view these places in a web browser, for example, and for somebody who's probably never going to make it to Italy for any number of reasons, like this is so amazing. You're actually kind of sharing the world in a really, really unique way.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this is something that I think a lot about, right? And I don't ever want to imagine that I'm creating a true substitute for travel, but the reality is that not everyone can travel, right? For various reasons. for, physical ability, for financial ability, time ability, right? All these resources that you need to have at your disposal in order to travel. So this allows for people to kind of have an experience. Also, it's really important for me that I continue to develop for WebXR applications, because I want people you shouldn't need to have a headset to have access, right? And, I provide models that are both we have higher fidelity models, high resolution models that are available, but then we also have really low resolution models that can work on a phone, right? And that people can then, just use their iPhone or smartphone and pan around and look and experience these spaces. I have a former social studies teacher from when I was in middle school who can't travel, and she wrote to me recently because I post to these rooms, and just like how delighted she is whenever I post a new space, because she gets to experience it when she knows that she'll never probably get there in person, right? And that's like awesome. That is one of the cultural heritage is everyone's heritage. So to create access to these is really important. Yeah.
Well,
Public schools. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say that is also improving, like, society in general. Like, something that's really important to the growth of a human being is to get out of their own little community and see the world. And for a lot of us it's not physically possible, but you're expanding minds, showing things on the other side of the world that a lot of people may never get to see in real life. It's good for everybody. Sorry, Obi, go ahead.
No, it's a great point. So, and the comment, that, we could put VR headsets, yes, a $300 headset is a lot cheaper than a plane ticket to any of these spaces, not to mention then, the housing and food and all that stuff. So, if public libraries have, access to, provide access to headsets and things, that would be amazing to do that in the future.
Professor Hupe, you probably didn't see Kevin Adjective Beaver's comment about hearing. It's so cool to hear your excitement as you explain all this, because you could hear it in your voice. You were as excited as we are to see it, and you were excited. You were excited to see. I mean, you couldn't see our faces. Actually, we were on mute, so you couldn't even hear our comments. So you didn't really get to experience how excited we all are until right now. And then you can just tell, and you can tell by our questions. And I'm kind of wondering to me, I was going to ask you what your vision for the future was, but this is so cool. I'm curious where you started and what is your vision? I mean, this is extremely cool. And I just did it on the desktop so that I'd have audio, but I know I've been in these sites, and please leave them up for a couple weeks so people can come back in their headsets.
Yes.
But, what do you want beyond this?
So, this all started with actually a Google Cardboard back in 2018, probably 2018, when I was creating 360 tours, static images of various sites. And I thought that was, super cool. And then that led during COVID to the idea of creating actual VR environments. So, where do we go from here? We go from here by expanding the catalog. I think that's really important. I also think it's really important that educators and scholars really be involved in this creation process. One of the things that I'm really skeptical of or reticent about is the idea of tech companies kind of automatically going in and doing it all themselves, because there are certain questions that scholars ask, particularly in how we teach these spaces and convey these spaces to a public, that I think need to be considered in the back end before you go and actually photograph these photograph them. Building the catalog out. So every year we try to do 3 to 4 sites to kind of expand. We are right now working with a library in Italy. This is a Biblioteca Malatestiana library, which is the oldest civic library in the world. It is the second public library in the world. And what I mean by civic library is it was owned by the citizens of this small town. It was opened in 1457, I believe, was the date that it opened. And, you know, very few people go to Cesena to go visit this library. And I want them to go because it's one of the most amazing spaces. We were just there a couple of weeks ago photographing it. And we were talking to the people in heading the library. And one of the things that they want to do is have our model on their landing page so that people can explore it, and get to see the space before going to visit and kind of drum up interest. But then we also want all of the books of this library are still in the library, right? And they've been digitized. So what we want to do is we want to create an application where when you're visiting the virtual library, you can then sit down at one of the desks and pull out one of the books and flip through the books, right? And kind of read in the library like you were reading in the Renaissance. And all of that technology exists. All of the code exists for this. So I'm working with several scholars to kind of get this implemented. But kind of creating more experiences like that would be great. I would one day love to have an independent app built that would allow for really the public to use, and probably have more guided tours or maybe other kind of facilitated facilitated viewing for people of some of these spaces. Any other questions?
I know
Yeah.
you guys have questions.
I think Yogi was trying to say something, but has had trouble staying in the.
Oh, in the room.
Yeah.
I did put one more room here if you want to go see it. It's the Piccolomini Library. It's this portal over here. We can meet there and we can eventually bid our dues there. But it's another space that I love to kind of show off too. So I'll meet you there. Commission this great little space to house the books that were not only part of their private collection. Today it houses these large texts, which these are antiphons, which would be used for the clergy to a great distance. So they house those books. But this would have been filled with books in the Renaissance, and has really great paintings by the artist Pinturicchio about the really great deeds that Piccolomini did in his life. So, all about aggrandizing oneself, right? That we see here. This was a space that we did 3 years ago, the same year actually that we did the Sala dei Giganti, the room that we were just in. This was another one that we had access to as well.
Very cool. I had a question about you mentioned wanting an app.
Yes.
Have you checked out Vertex Form 3D?
I have not yet. No.
Can
you send me that information?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we already connected on LinkedIn?
We might. I think we probably are. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just, I'm an art historian, so I'm very bad at LinkedIn. So Terry, you're lucky that I didn't read your message because I'm trying to get better. And some of this is all still out of my league, I would say. So
I'm a pest, and
You're
I
doing
contact you multiple different sources. So if you don't answer my LinkedIn, I hunt you down in other ways. And
I love
Ray had told me that she already asked you, so that makes it even easier. But you responded in 5 days, which is very quick.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good for me, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because you and I can tell LinkedIn tells you if people use it very much, so that kind of gives you an idea too. And you know, everybody, he makes him he out his contact is on the invite for this, and he's very reachable, but he's also very busy. And also, and if you want to travel, don't think you can't. You know, this inspires you to go places. And the only thing I wish is I would have done it sooner. And I thought traveling was a waste of money, but my art history teacher inspired me, and it took me a long time to ever go. And you know, don't wait. And when you go, of course you're going to want to go again, but you can do it in an inexpensive way. You know, you can buy cheaper food. You can get there in an inexpensive way. So let this inspire you. Don't wait decades to go.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great. Oh, this is great. I love like learning new things and all these things all these platforms that I never knew about. I mean, I had no idea what Blender was for a very long time. So
Yay, another Blender nerd here.
Blender's amazing. Blender is great. You know, and I love that it's free. I think that's really important. We thought about going like ZBrush or one of the, you know, another, you know, subscription based one, and I've doubled down on Blender because it's really important to keep open access stuff alive.
Awesome. I wish more businesses would go with their model.
Yes. Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah.
As a photogrammetry nerd, like I worked for a few years at a 3D printing shop where we had LiDAR scanners, hand scanners. I also have found that just using a simple phone is quite adequate.
Yeah.
Especially modern phone cameras for photogrammetry. How do you decide like what to touch up and what not to touch up?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a really hard question. First of all, I want to second that the mobile device can make really great models. I'm actually about to head to Miami next week to run a workshop for the Mud Foundation, and while I'm there, I'm also going to do a workshop on mobile photogrammetry. And there's several spaces actually on our website that were mobile captured, and we always tell you how we capture in the metadata, you know, these spaces. And so, yeah, the technology is getting so good right now, which is pretty awesome. And you can process these things on a mobile app, which, you know, takes only, you know, a couple of minutes as opposed to, you know, when we're doing it on our software where it takes sometimes a couple of days to do it. The decision on what we touch up, gosh, I don't have a very good answer for you. Besides the fact that I have a general rule that I try to remove any stanchions, like anything that is in the room to prevent visitors from like touching the walls, right? So like fencing, that kind of stuff. I think in this room, let me look to see in the corner. Yeah, it's still there. There's a fire extinguisher in the corner on the left by the door. I think I will eventually remove that fire extinguisher because I think it's hideous. The floor is all new. It is the tile is actually someone from ArtStation. I found that they created a texture of this actual tile that's from the room. But I use that to create a lower poly version of the floor. So like I do make decisions like that. I often rip out floors. I might even rip out sections of walls to try to save some of the geometry and some of the texture mapping, and bring it down to like a 1K texture on the floor because it's nice, but nobody's going to really be paying attention to the floor. They should be paying walls. And I'm starting to work with some students now who actually have some background in 3D modeling to help retypologize and just kind of improve the quality of the models so they run more efficiently on WebXR platforms. The biggest challenge for me is textures. That is the challenge that I will lose sleep over all the time, because how do we get as faithful textures as humanly possible that we're not losing some of the resolution so you can see the details of the paintings. And I don't know, one day I will talk to a professional who knows about this, because right now, I don't even want to tell you what my technique is, but I've developed these kinds of workarounds to try to compress things and make the file smaller and so forth.
That's what professionals do.
Yeah, good.
And Professor Hupe, you did a great job on your PowerPoints because they worked, and in spatial, a lot of times they don't. So I think
that's good.
You shrunk them and made them work in here, and that was great.
I know PowerPoint well.
But you had to make it little enough that it worked in here. And
Yeah,
and in
I think
art,
it was 7 megabytes, so that was pretty good.
that was impressive.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'll hang out for a few more minutes if people have questions, but otherwise, Harry, I just want to thank you again for the invitation, and for all of you for having so many amazing questions and getting my mind going and getting me excited about this work. We're about to start the model build from this summer, so it's always exciting, getting all these ideas in place before we start sitting down at the computer and trying to hatch out some new models.
So the way you took us through here, had you done that before?
No.
Oh, that was excellent. Obviously you teach in front of the class, but to have the PowerPoint to show it to us and then to let us walk into it, that was just...
I've done a PowerPoint before in a space, just for better details of detail shots of things. But I like the whole portal thing where you can kind of tell us I don't know, go around to different places and teleport.
I'm the only one that knew you had that room, so it was taking all of my self-control not to say, can we go to the room? But I didn't. I thought you were gonna, because when we were practicing, he just put it on top of the room we were in instead of going to it. This way worked a lot better. Good job.
Good, thanks.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everybody for coming and asking questions. And
thank you. Yeah, and reach out. LinkedIn. I will be on LinkedIn. Also, at Prof Hupe is my Instagram handle, and I'm on that a lot too. So
spell that for him.
It's I'll put it in the chat too. It's at PROF and HUPE. My and that's also my Sketchfab name. Yeah, all the socials.
Great.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. It was great to reconnect and see.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Oh, then thanks also for the suggestion. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I do have to get going. I've got another meeting at 6:30. So, but it was great to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks, everyone.
And all our XR Meetup people will be here the same time next month, the last Wednesday of the month, 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. See y'all then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Tristia, you made it. Yay. That's okay. At least you... Yeah, how old is that baby now? Well, I thought it was getting close. Well, Well, I'm glad you made it because at least it'll be in your favorites, so you go back to it. You have more time, and I thought you would like it. So glad you made it. Nope, that was. Oh yeah, you did a great job. You did a fabulous job. Well, thank you, Anne. Thanks for. There was. Well, I actually asked Carlos. I paid him to record it because I knew this guy was going to be good. So I didn't expect him to be this good. So when I get the recording from him, I'll send it to you to put it on the YouTube channel if you want me to. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I knew he was going to be good, and I didn't know he was going to be this good though. He did that so well. I had a lot of boring professors in my life, but he was not one of them. That was, oh, he was wonderful. Well, go back to your baby duty. Glad you made it, and I will send you that when I get it from Carlos. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye. Oh, you're the best too. I mean, I'm just happy that we have this because we all just kind of push each other along. You know what I mean? And yeah, we learned so much, and I mean, he did such a good job. I mean, that is what he does, but I just didn't